Oh, it's going down now, man. It's going down now. We're live. We are live. Welcome to the first episode of the rebranded Calling All Beings. I'm your host, DJ San Marco. Good evening, everybody. And I am joined by my amazing co-host. He's the baddest of the bad. He's Georgia's own Money Nate. Await soul. How's it going, Nathan?
Good, DJ. How are you?
Dude, I'm doing good, man. I'm like so excited, man. It's a whole new era in the show. We're on YouTube. We're going to be on podcasts. We're going to bring you great guests. And you know what? We're starting it off tonight with the lovely, the talented, and the hypnotic. A little play on words there.
I like
Party
it.
people, put your hands together for Karlene Linxweiler. Yes!
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here. This is exciting.
Yes! We're going to get down. We're going to talk about some hypnotic regression, and then we're going to get into the biggest story in the phenomenon, Nathan. What is it?
Is Anjali? Is that what you're talking about?
Can I get an amen? Can I get an amen? Anjali.
Hot topic.
What's up, homegirl? And today, surreptitiously behind Nathan's back, I got Karlene read in on the story.
He did.
Nice job.
So she read, and that was a good Dr. Evil, right?
Oh, perfect. Nailed
That
it.
was really good. That was solid.
I want to say this, like, first of all, Karlene, I just want to say the camera adds like 20 pounds. I'm really a lot better looking than this in person. Anyway,
All
she's like, I'll take your word for it. Okay. He's like, I'm having an easier time believing Anjali's story. But anyway, so I sent her the interview. I don't know. How many of them did you listen to, Karlene?
So I listened to the majority of that very long first one.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the one we were chatting about.
Mm-hmm.
And then I went down a little bit of a rabbit hole, and then I pulled myself out of the rabbit hole. But I jumped through those other YouTube's interviews with her, and then I just started doing my own investigation on who she was, just to see like her credibility and where she was coming from, because this was a brand new story for me.
Yeah, I mean, and so we'll get into that. But first, we have the topic at hand. Back to the lecture at hand, Karlene. So, as is usually the case, when we want someone to ask a really intelligent question, obviously it's Nathan. So with that, I'm pointing over towards him. Nathan is going to kick this off with the first question. My brother.
Thank you, DJ. Karlene, great to have you on the show. Really looking forward to talking with you, and can't say enough about how grateful we are to have you on as our first guest. So super excited about that. I was wondering if you could set the stage for us a little bit and introduce our audience to a little bit about your background, a little bit about your journey, because I've read about you, read a little bit about your story, and it's really fascinating, and I think people would love to hear it. And then I also want you to talk a little bit about what you're working on now, what kind of interests you, what really gets you motivated as your journey continues into the future.
Okay, so and you're talking about hypnotic journey, or are you talking about spiritual journey?
I mean, I want to hear it all, but let's. I would think one may segue to the other, but you tell me.
It will. Sure. So spiritually, I mean, ever since, and it's funny because I was doing a podcast Saturday night where this actually had come up, and I had forgotten about these memories from my childhood, but I had a lot of paranormal stuff happening throughout my childhood and experiences, but I just kind of all chalked it up to imagination, because I think I have a pretty good imagination, pretty creative.
Nice.
And so as time went on, I kind of like pulled away from spirituality, got more into the materialistic world until about my mid-20s, and then I started to see auras. I had gone through something that was, I consider, traumatizing. A close person to me had almost died. And I think what happened was I started to focus a lot on heart energy. And heart energy, when you focus on this work, and they do this in Qigong, this opens you up to more telepathic tendencies. It actually helps you expand. So I talk a lot about third eye expansion, because that can happen when you open up your third eye. I mean, when you open up your heart. your third eye will open. So I started seeing auras, and then that obviously led me down to reading a lot of books. I started reading voraciously about the topics of spirituality. I got to be a certified yoga teacher. At the time, I was
Yes. Sorry, we had to shout out to yoga teachers.
All the yogis in the house.
Yeah, what's up, man?
Thanks. At the time, I was a high school teacher. I was a full-time high school teacher in my 20s, and over in New Hampshire. And I was teaching the social studies, so social sciences. Mainly had majored in political science and history. So moving forward, I wanted to get the heck out of the mainstream world. I just needed to get out of having a full-time job. I wanted to work for myself. I wanted to have a more, what I felt was a more in-depth living. So in an in-depth way of living on my own terms. So I had opened a yoga studio where we did aerial as well. And that was very successful. I had it for 7 years. I sold it last summer during the COVID lockdown, had sold it off. And my spiritual path during the COVID lockdown, I started to get into hypnosis a little bit before it. I discovered Dolores Cannon. And
yes.
Do you guys know who Dolores Cannon is?
How about this? You're the second person on the show that's a disciple of Dolores Cannon.
Yeah,
the other one was Debbie.
What did Debbie do? What kind of work did
Debbie was she did hypnotic regression, and she was a Kundalini yoga teacher. She teaches at one of the places I sub at.
Yeah, so there you go. So Dolores Cannon is someone to know. If you're listening to this podcast, if you're into ufology, she worked closely with MUFON, MUFON, in the 80s. She is known for her work with MUFON as well. And if I'm pronouncing that incorrectly, please correct me.
No, that's right. It's MUFON. Yeah, that's correct.
And she wrote a lot of books on her clients that had hypnotic regressions. I'm from New Hampshire. Betty Barney Hill is a story that everyone knows, or most people know. If you don't, I mean, it's not a hard story to look up into. So anyways, I was using hypnosis to tap into these regressions. And you know what's coming to my head right now? This movie, it's Alaska. Was it The Third Kind? What was that movie?
Close Encounters?
Close Encounters. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was somewhere out west, like Utah, or I don't know. Where was it, Nathan?
I think it was Alaska. Was it not Alaska?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah,
there's one in Alaska, though, guys. There is one.
Devil's Peak or something like that.
I've heard. Okay, so there might be two different movies, and I'll come back and I'll comment on this. But anyway, so using hypnotic regression to access these memories. So I was reading her books. I was getting all up on what she was doing. And I was like, this is the work I want to do. I want to do regression work. We have a mutual friend, Natasha. She's been on this show.
Yes.
I love Natasha. She and I are all about, I've done a lot of paranormal investigations with her just for fun.
Nice.
Wow.
She's great. And she was a hypnotic subject of mine many times. And as a friend, and so, but since that time, I've done dozens and dozens, if not a couple, close to 100 hypnotic regressions in the last year. And so
that's a lot.
In a year it is. And so I'm constantly progressing and working, and I've been talking to more and more people involved in UFO research and disclosure. And whether or not I want to be involved in this subject wants to be involved with me.
Yeah.
Wow.
Sounds familiar.
It sounds like Anjali, my homegirl. What's up, Anjali? So, all right.
Well, I think all of us that get into this find our way. We're almost pulled into it, and sometimes kicking and screaming. But there's a lure of this topic that brings you in and doesn't let you go.
Yeah. It's interesting.
I want to talk about mine, but you guys have a tissue. No, let's focus on Karlene. So you said you had some paranormal experiences though growing up, and I'm assuming that lit the fire that then kind of like that fire was doused and then it kind of sparked up again.
Yeah, I think life kind of happened, and I became a teenager, and I just got away from that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? But I had a lot of sleep paralysis, a lot of nights of sleep paralysis, things that would bump in the night, wake me up, things sitting on the edge of my bed, visitors at night. Sometimes they would come in the form of my dad, which was
Mhm.
really like they would be transparent. They would try to, I think, mask themselves to look like somebody I was familiar with. I was 6 or
Mhm.
7,
Mm.
and they never touched me or anything like that.
Mhm.
They just would try to communicate, I think.
Hmm.
So
Does that
a
run in
lot
your
of
family at all?
not that I know of.
Okay.
You know, my mom has, however, my mother, who's very quiet about this kind of stuff, every once in a while she'll say, like, when she was a kid, she remembered waking up and there'd be a woman standing at the edge of her bed.
Hmm.
And then she had a couple visitations back in 92 or 93. And I do remember being 7 years old or 8 years old when that happened.
So it
And
does run in the family.
I guess so, but I've never actually, I haven't seen a UFO until this is how it all happened. So if I can, full disclosure here, I was talking to Natasha a week ago and I said,
Mhm.
hey, I think I saw a UFO. And that's how she connected me to you guys, because she
Wow.
was like, I think it's starting to happen, or I don't know if I'm calling in this experience or what, but
Mhm. Wow.
yeah.
Incredible. Yeah,
I'm
and I've
just
heard
getting
that.
out my notepad to take. I'm just kidding. I'm not gonna. I'm not gonna take any notes. Sorry. Go ahead.
Well, I've heard that it can run in the family, these types of
Okay.
experiences, and in particular through the female line in the family, that it can be
There you
stronger.
go.
So just interesting.
There you go. Interesting.
Maybe it is. It isn't. Is there more? Have you heard more narratives from female persons than male persons, Nathan? Is that?
Well, when it comes to this type of experience, and I'm not an expert at this at all, but the ones that I have come across, the little that I know of, it does seem to be more prevalent with women than men. Now, there could just be maybe a conversational bias. Maybe more women are likely to talk about
Talking
this
about it.
I
than
think so.
than men. So it hard to say.
So the entity that visited you, Carlene, you think that that's more in the Natasha realm than the UFO realm?
Well, that's what I believe up to this point. I don't believe I've had any experience to say otherwise. If it was, and then there's a whole discussion about, and I don't know if you guys can educate me on this one, but there's people who believe that a lot of aliens are interdimensional beings.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's other people, like I actually got an email the other day where someone was very upset, not at me, they were upset at a different regressionist they worked with. And he was kind of coming to me for an answer. And I'm a big believer do not listen to anything anyone says. The truth is within you, like your truth, your reality. So I don't love when people come at me with, please answer this for me. I don't know. Know. It's your experience. But the person was upset because they were trying to understand, are aliens interdimensional beings or are they physical beings? And they were having a hard time bridging that idea. And I'm thinking, well, why not? Why can't it be both?
Sure.
Why can't there be some that are interdimensional and that some are actual physical?
We actually have some good reasons why we believe that. And I think Nathan can expound on that real quickly.
Well, yeah. So there, I mean, the whole host of phenomena that have been reported, nothing fits neatly into one box, right? And so, because of that, you have folks that are focusing on these sort of different aspects, these different rays of the same sun, perhaps, but the way that it manifests itself in our time and our space and our world. And what's interesting about it all is that, as you said, it could be all of the above, and you'll find that some people become very passionate about it is ET. They're from other planets, from other galaxies. They're here in their physical craft. That's exactly what this is. Then you'll hear other people say, no, it's interdimensional people. They're not from another galaxy, not from another world. They basically coexist on a layer of reality that we occupy. We just can't interface with them very well
All the time.
Yeah, exactly. So there
when
could
they
be
want
some
to
bleed over, but there isn't much bleed over very often.
So just tell about Aguadilla real quick. Like you have a transmedium vehicle
Yes.
that's going in the water, but it doesn't splash.
Exactly. So you have, and this, that example, as well as Tic Tac, which we started talking about at the beginning, these are things that have been picked up by physical sensors. And so, infrared, other types of sensor technologies have seen these craft, and that adds some credence to the notion that these are nuts and bolts things, purely nuts and bolts phenomena. Yes, they can do phenomenal things, but they're just physical things. But then you have lots of stories where whatever appears to the experiencer can, as you mentioned earlier, kind of change its appearance based on the person that is having the experience, maybe make it so that they can be something that person would be more comfortable with, and not make them uncomfortable. I watched something today. One of the women, she was a girl at the time, but she's a woman now, who was a part of the aerial school incident in Zimbabwe. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but it's a very well-known case, a huge case in ufology, where all these school kids were playing. And
I have heard this.
Yeah, and so that they were out in basically the play yard of the school in Zimbabwe, and a craft appeared, and beings communicated with some of these school children.
The craft.
Exited and communicated telepathically with these kids, and she essentially said that they didn't speak; they projected sort of thousands of images, telepathically in front of her, to make a communication, and that they also kind of, she felt that the way that they appeared wasn't necessarily what they really looked like. So that was interesting.
They had hair, didn't they? They had hair on it.
Well, they, in one of the drawings from the children, they did, but in her drawing, they didn't. So this is another example of where different people seem to have a slightly modified experience of what it is that they're observing.
Right.
And I want to just say one more thing about, and I will send you after the show, I'll send you the Agua Dia video so you can watch it. And it's basically a Customs and Border Patrol aircraft sensor that it's same sensor that I flew with when I was active duty, and they filmed this thing. So I know like all the symbology on the screen, what it says and what it means. And you basically see this thing flying, and you can zoom in on it, and it doesn't have a shape. It's not square. It's not round, and it's shape shifting, and it flies right over an airport, and you can see it. And then it goes out over the water, and it goes in the water. There's no splash, and there's multiple accounts of these things going in the water without a physical splash. And then it comes out, and then it's two of them when it comes out of the water. So that's what makes us think there's certain characteristics of an aircraft that things like the Tic Tac do not display, that makes us think that it's not interacting with our atmosphere the way that we have to interact with the atmosphere when we want to fly. There's certain theorems, and airplanes are built a certain way to create lift. This thing doesn't have any of that stuff. Yeah. It's like, no, we don't need to do all that. So.
Well, if you guys have probably all know all about Bob Lazar. Right. And didn't he basically have to reverse engineer how these crafts were made and how they actually operated?
He was asked to do that. He did not successfly do that. He was asked to do that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And it's, so I mean, in my mind, it's like these might be beings. Well, there's different levels of beings, I believe, because if you, like, a lot of spiritual people talk about channeling different interdimensional beings, like Pleiadians, Arcturians, Anunnakis, things like that, right? Sure. And mantis beings and Orions and beings like that. And then there's also the beings where you like the Greys, right?
Right.
And people talking about the Greys. So my knowledge comes from very much a spiritual perception, a spiritual perspective, but I am aware of some experiences that people have had. And I wonder if some of these beings might be interdimensional, and some of them actually might be physical, but they're being able to play with dimensions and they're being able to move through time and space in ways that we just can't understand yet. Right.
Sure.
And can you guys educate me on this? Because this is a theory I've had since I was a teacher, teaching U.S. history, is that it was more prevalent to have abductions or sightings after World War II. And what I mean by that is after the atomic bomb. And then the creation of CERN.
Right. There's a lot of talk about that the dawn of the atomic age may have somehow catalyzed an increase in sightings and experiences of this type of phenomenon. And, one big sort of reason why that might be is by discovering this power, the power of the atom, sort of like a giant flashing red light to the universe saying, okay, like this is a civilization that has discovered this technology. It's incredibly dangerous. And
Mm.
we need to observe how and what they're doing with it, so that, they don't maybe end their civilization, destroy their planet, all the other
Yeah.
species that are on that planet. So it's certainly an interesting theory. On the other hand, we can go back through history and look at a lot of accounts of what we call strange things, and say, hey, maybe that was in fact what we would call the modern day UFO phenomenon.
Can I interrupt for a second?
Sure.
Of course.
There is significant anecdotal evidence from places like Maelstrom Air Force Base where missileers saw them hovering over missile silos, Minuteman missile silos, Minot, North Dakota. There's probably like 10 different sightings. At one point, they actually shut down missiles. They would hover over. There's a very famous guy named Robert Salas. You can find him he's actually on UFO Twitter. He's an old man now, but you can see him in the late 60s when he was young, and he was commander of a missile silo as captain. And he says, yeah, I went out there and it was sitting there hovering and it shot a beam into the missile silo. He's not the only one that tells that story. There are other security policemen from the Air Force that tell a very similar story. So there's anecdotal evidence that they have both started launch sequences and let humans shut them down, and also turned off missiles that were online. So,
yeah, and the Russians have recounted experiences like this as well with their ICBMs. So yeah, super duper interesting stuff. And Karlene, what I would love to kind of get into with you, so what I find fascinating is sort of everyone's different on road to this topic, right? So everyone's got a little bit of a different path that they follow where they land on this subject. And when they land on it kind of on a spectrum. We're all on a spectrum in a certain way. Some of us might be more in the nuts and bolts side. Some of us might be more in the spiritual side, that it may be more religious type of phenomena. There's a whole kind of host of things that go on there. But what I'm interested to hear from you, and particularly your journey, is the way in which your journey through yoga and through aerial yoga and through hypnosis, how have those stepping stones, kind of opened up your perception to these other things, and how has it kind of changed your worldview by going through those different types of practices? Because I really think that when you begin a practice, anytime it's a new practice, right? Let's say that you want to paint for the first time, or you want to write poetry, or whatever it is. Someone exposes you to that thing, and they essentially reveal to you a world that didn't exist before, a world that was unknown to you before. And in a way, they're giving you an invitation to come into that space. And think of it like your studio. When you have a new client come in, you're inviting them to come into that space with you, and that space is a new kind of canvas, if you will, that they are going to explore with their body and with their time. And that the act of doing those things, how does that change a person, and how has it changed you over the course of your journey?
So are you asking for what was my initiation into aliens and UFOs, or to the spiritual?
I think he's asking how your teaching, your practice, your acknowledgement, you're taking yoga into you, how that may have affected your entrance into this space. Because my follow-up to him is going to be like, I think we're more open to the space.
Yeah.
Personally.
I was more closed off to all of this. And then I think through not just studying yoga, and it was actually, if I could pinpoint it, that's difficult for me at this point, I think, but I think what opened me up to it was, I'm going to circle back and give her credit. Natasha was a big piece of that. And because she was into aliens and had experiences, and I had done hypnosis with her and with some other people as well. And since then and they've had these experiences that actually started to make me very curious. When it comes to UFO and ufology and aliens, I was partially in denial for a while. I believe they did exist. I believe that they didn't really contact us. If they did, why isn't there more evidence of it? Because everyone has a computer in their pocket.
Sure.
Why aren't there more videos? And then I will tell you, like, when I believe I saw one last week, and I'll talk about that in a second, but I had my phone on me and I didn't take a picture of it. I didn't take a video of it.
See, and nobody does. It's amazing.
Yeah,
and then I was like, I swear, and then I have this theory now, Nathan, and I might be digressing, but I'll get back. But I have this theory now that maybe they only show themselves to who they want to show themselves to. And then when they do that, they kind of, because they can do telepathy, maybe kind of nudge you away from the impulse to grab the device and get the camera going. You know, I don't know.
Sure.
But that kind of opened me up more to these experiences because I hadn't had any of my own. And then through talking about it, I mean, I'm 35 now, and my mother finally admitted maybe 2 or 3 months ago about the incident I'm talking about when I was 7. So these conversations started to happen. And then I was, quick story. We were at a fireside on a mountaintop in Oregon with a group of us around Memorial Day weekend. There was about 15 to 20 of us in a group. We had the whole mountain to ourselves in Oregon. And someone around the campfire was like, can you just do a quick hypnosis? And I did a really brief 10, 15-minute session right there with the group. One person did not participate. And when I was done, he goes, so while you were doing that, I think I saw a UFO fly over all of us. And he didn't stop me. He didn't say anything.
Right.
I was very disappointed.
Sure.
I actually have something more important, Karlene. This is the reason why you need to keep your iPhone square, because you could have been like, yeah, I could do a 15-minute. Do you mind just sliding your debit card here? That'll be $35. I mean, that's reasonable, right? I'm going to do having a weekend here. And okay. So make sure you have that square with you at all times.
It's a good tip.
Okay.
So my initiation was definitely just hypnotizing people and having experiences come about. And then the more I talk about it, people start to come out of the woodwork a little bit and they start to chat more about it.
Yeah.
Okay. So as a yogi, you still weren't buying into it.
UFOs and aliens.
Right.
That was outside of my paradigm.
Okay, guys, it was great having Karlene. And I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
It's been real.
Right. So it was something that was, I believe they were out there, but they weren't really interacting with us. You know, they were observing maybe. That's where I come from. So yeah. So I've been converted.
Wait, before we continue, can we just give a shout out to SNHU's favorite academic advisor, my advisor, Natasha Dominguez. What's up, homegirl?
Yes.
So there you go. Sorry.
Big shout out to her for sure. No, we had a great time talking with her. And looking forward to talking with her again. I learned a ton that night during that conversation about ghost hunting. Yeah.
She's very knowledgeable.
Yeah.
Really knowledgeable. And her work is, it's really cool. I've been on some intense hunts with her where we've had some interactions.
Oh, I can imagine.
Yeah.
But so coming back to kind of, I guess, my question a little bit too, the way I'm trying to think about this, and I may have phrased it poorly, but I grew up in a religious household, and a lot of Americans did, I'm sure, and have a little bit of similar context there. But the very exposure to religious thinking, to concepts like angels or demons or prayer or miracles. These are sparks that light sort of new fires in the mind and make the mind believe that things are capable where you weren't aware of their capability before. And so with yoga, and I've done a little bit of yoga, and I wish I was doing more. I love it. But in doing it, what I discovered about myself is that things that I didn't think I was capable of doing, I really was. So yoga was a gateway for me to understand that I had more capability than I was aware of before. And so I'm curious with your practice of it, did that, kind of broaden your acceptance of other things in your life that you may not have been aware of before.
But so did psychedelics.
Okay, all right. Well, we can go there too.
For me, it's some Jack Daniels and Coors Light, and I've seen a lot of things.
There was a woman who had started coming to my studio 3 or 4 years ago, and she used to be a clinical therapist in a methadone clinic.
Methadone.
Thank you. I have a hard time with that word. And she found that she couldn't work with clients and help them the way she wanted to. She was a big believer, and I am a big believer of this, that psilocybin mushroom, psychedelic mushroom, can actually help cure people who have mental illness and addiction.
Yeah.
I'm a big proponent of mushrooms. I love mushrooms. I'm not just talking about psychedelics. I'm talking about chaga, reishi, lion's mane, turkey tail, like other supplementation of mushroom. I think it's a very powerful medicine. Looking at Paul Steinmetz, if anybody is listening.
Shout out to Paul Steinmetz,
but this girl was definitely, she would do hypnotic work with me, and she would also educate me about using a psychedelic as a tool and for mind expansion. And through doing that, that's when I really cracked open. So yoga and spirituality was probably the gateway drug, but I mean, mushroom psilocybin really like pushed me through that threshold where I was able to experience and expand my mind in a way, and my consciousness in a way where I was more accepting of these things.
Gotcha.
See, yoga, and by the way, I know what pose that Nathan was really challenged. He's talking about Parvrita Ardha. I can't do that pose either. I have to stare at the ground, and then I can't look at my hand. But that's beside the point.
It doesn't matter though. You're still a good person, even if you can't attain the pose perfect.
I don't know. Let's not humor him too much. Okay.
Absolutely. No, I actually serve a different function, because people will come to class and they'll go, okay, this guy can't do like all those super big. He's not super flexible. And that's what I want. I want everybody to believe that they can come in the class. Yeah. They can do them. The person at the front of the room is not a shaman. They're not your boss. They're not the master. It's not Simon Says. You go into anybody's class and you do you. And whatever that posture looks like, that's great.
I like that.
So anyway, nobody's the master. Yeah. I'm just a guide, and I'm fallible. I fall out of postures. And what I do is I say, what do you do in life when you fall down? You get up and you try it again, and you laugh at yourself. And then we're going to go back to Ardha Chandrasana, twisted if necessary. So anyway, enough about yoga. We're here to find out about Karlene's UFO experience that happened, the Sunday before last?
Yeah, so it's not going to be I fear it's not going to be that cool of a story for the listeners, but I'll tell you my version and my perception, and you guys can tell me what you think.
Okay.
So I checked in with Natasha because, oh my gosh, this is like the Natasha show. She might as well have been on there.
Natasha Dominguez, Southern New Hampshire's own. All right, go ahead.
She's like all over this particular podcast, but regardless. So I'd gone to her because I doubted the experience. I went to her actually 2 days later after it happened, because I really just was like, I don't know it. And I kind of like just put it aside. And she was like, well, she's like, maybe it was. And then I started going down a little research rabbit hole. So what had happened was I'm in Idaho. I'm in Boise, and it's a valley, and we're surrounded by mountains or foothills. And there are popular places to hike. So I had gone up to the biggest mountain over here, which is called Bogus Basin.
At night, did you say?
No. I went
during the day. Okay.
No, during the day. It was, I went up there around 7 a.m. So I go up to go hiking with my dog. And this is why I doubted this for 2 days or so. And I still kind of am weary of it, but hear me out. So I'm driving back down this mountain, and I'm going about 10 miles an hour, 15 miles an hour, because it's a lot of switchbacks and it's very steep, and there's a lot of oncoming traffic, but I'm the only car descending the mountain. It's like 10 a.m. on a Sunday, and it's broad daylight. And as I'm coming down, I am just listening to my music and not thinking of anything in particular. I look up and I'm seeing a hazy, so it wasn't solid. It was like, but not transparent either. It was hazy looking, and it was a black rectangle, right? And it was laying horizontally. So the more narrow ends were on the side, and it was longer. I would guess, someone had asked me, I would guess the size of a house.
Okay.
No idea.
So the first question, as far as the shape, how could, because if the aspect that you're looking at it, are you looking at the long end of the rectangle?
Yes.
And its relative height compared to you was?
That was the more shorter side, right? So the longer side was going end to end. Think of like, it was like the hot dog, not the hamburger.
Right. So you're seeing the longer end was facing your car, because I'm curious, because I've heard of a lot of triangles. So that's why I'm curious if it could have been a triangle.
Right. So I had actually found an image online. I haven't shared it with you guys, but I found an image online that was identical to what I saw.
Okay.
And I shared it with Natasha.
Yeah, I've got it.
Oh, okay.
I'll see if I can share it.
Yeah. So it's just a Google image search. It's not what I saw because I didn't take a picture. But,
right.
And I slowed my car down because there was no traffic behind me. So I slowed down to about 5-7 miles an hour. And I was like, what am I looking at? Now, as you're switching back down the mountain, you know, I would lose my view of it, right? Because you'd have a hill or a house or something block your view. And this thing was hovering, and again, about the size of a house, is hovering over the southern side of Boise City. And I'm thinking, if I'm seeing this, everyone else has got to be seeing this. This thing's huge.
Right.
But as I was focusing on it and I'm starting to slow my car down intentionally to get out and take a picture or just get a better look at it. It started to slowly disappear and faded out. And then I took another turn and it was gone. So I doubted it for 2 days or so. And then I started talking to Natasha. I found that picture and I was like, okay, this might be something I saw. I have no idea. I went online to see if there's any UFO reports. And there's quite a few in Idaho and especially in the Pacific Northwest, but they're usually triangles.
I'll see if I can share the screen now so you guys can see it.
Sure.
So let me see if this will work. If you guys can see. There you go. Oh, it went away. Yeah. Did it? Oh, wait. Share screen. There we go. All right. Yeah. Cool. And did it?
I got your screen.
Okay. Oh, you see it? Okay. Let me.
I see your screen. I see your background.
Can you see this?
No.
Okay. That's the image. I don't know. Nathan, does it have something where you can put it on? But it's really cool. It does exactly look like.
That's exactly what I saw. The same, like, opaqueness, the same density. Yeah,
that's really, really cool. So, all right. So you could see the bottom of it enough that you could tell the shape was not triangular. In fact, it was a rectangle because your relative position.
Yeah, it was. I never, and obviously most of my hypnotic sessions and people that I've heard from and usually images you look up are triangle. And I believe the one my mother saw was a triangle, but no, I was very confused by this.
Let me let Nathan get in a question about this, because then we got to go to Anjali. And I'm not talking mudra. I'm not talking mudra, because Karlene was fired up today. She was ready to just let loose, man. Well, right in the middle of my work day, I'm like, hold it for tonight, girl. All right, go ahead, Nathan.
Fantastic.
Do you have anything final about the sighting that you would like to inquire about?
Yeah. So at this point, I mean, this was pretty recent. And as you mentioned at the beginning of the show, you've done a large number of hypnotherapy sessions with folks, and I watched a couple of those on your YouTube channel. They were really interesting, including some that people talk about their own experiences with sort of UFOs or aliens or whatnot. So again, kind of coming back to this notion of, I don't want to use the word conditioning, because that sounds as if it is it's controlled. What I want to use or think about this in terms of as expansion, and sort of a mental expansion. So could you say that your work with your patients and some of their regression experiences, has that made room in your mind for looking for these things or stumbling upon them, or maybe, you probably heard of the word, I'll mispronounce it, but it's pareidolia, and that's essentially where you look at a cloud and you see like, oh, that's a bunny, or that's like we look at shapes.
That's
and we
what I
map
feared.
onto them
That's what I
things.
feared I was doing. That's what I feared.
But it stayed in place as you kind of moved around, and then
it did not move.
It didn't move, and the color was strange too, right? You said it was kind of black.
Yeah, but it was almost it was a dark color, and it wasn't a solid black. Well, I mean, it could have been, but I was so far away. And like you said, it just was hovering there. It didn't move. It didn't go forward. Like, so I will say, like, when I was going up the mountain, on my way up towards the mountain, I did see a hot air balloon in the air. So my first thought when I saw this thing was, that must be a hot air balloon. But I'm like, no, it's a box. It's angular. It's angular. And it wasn't moving. It was not drifting up, down, right or left. It just was there and then slowly faded away. That's all.
That does sound. And so the voice you're hearing right there is Karlene of Roots and Wings Hypnosis, Karlene Linxweiler, and my co-host tonight, of course, is for Calling All Beings, is at A Waif Soul on Twitter. His name is Nathan, and we are Calling All Beings, and it's the launch of our new podcast together. We've done several episodes prior under our prior name. And we're honored to have Karlene with us this evening. And you guys can see that I can be serious. Okay. Maybe I wasn't serious just in saying that. But one of the things that I find really interesting is that, as you can see right here, Karlene is extremely well adjusted with her experience and is not terribly affected. Then you look at what we associate with a macho man like that in the Navy, like Kevin Day, who was enormously respected by his shipmates, basically selected to go to Top Gun school as a radar operator, something I didn't even know they had in the Navy Top Gun program. And him seeing the Tic Tac on his radar screen for several nights in a row, plus the encounter, he couldn't sleep. He's had issues. He's been driven to tears talking about it. And yet Karlene here, our yoga teacher, yes, right on camera, Nathan.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he was driven to tears if you watch the Showtime special. And yet we have Karlene here that's extremely well adjusted. Maybe that's, would it be different if you saw it on a radar screen for a week straight?
I think maybe somebody who's been not very spiritually inclined would, or maybe educated about this kind of stuff, would definitely have some shell shock from seeing something like that and being like, and trying to integrate that into his previous experience of like, what is this? What is this? Whereas I might have, and this goes back to what Nathan was just saying. I was wary of sharing this story. And I still kind of am now, because maybe I'm just being a seeker, and I just was seeking an experience. But my hope is that I'm not going to be calling in these experiences. I think that they can organically happen. And if they keep happening, I will be accepting of that,
Right.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And can you now, for the audience, execute Anjali Mudra so we can welcome in the topic of Anjali?
I don't think I know it.
It's this.
Is that it? Okay.
This is Anjali Mudra.
I was like, is this going to be something
yes,
weird?
No. That's Anjali Mudra. So boy, Nathan,
Yes.
do you want to kick this off, or should we let Karlene, because she was ready to just fire with both barrels?
Nathan have it.
All right, go ahead. Nathan,
all right.
kick it. DJ, kick that shit. All right,
We'll see what I can do. So, all right. So this is a topic that has been kind of a lightning rod topic in the last several weeks in UFO Twitter and ufological circles. But it's something that has happened over and over again through the history of ufology. And that's where we have, I talked about a spectrum earlier, and we have people who have had an experience of something very profound that has changed their life. But the experience itself lacks what most would say would be any kind of substantial degree of evidence to back up the claims that they're making. And this is where Anjali, the story of Anjali, comes in. She claims to have had an experience with higher beings. I think that's the phrase that she uses, that have conveyed a message to her. The message is a mixture of good things and bad things. She claims to have met these beings in a base buried somehow in a mountain in the Mojave Desert. And she recently, in the last couple of weeks, did a press conference in front of the Lincoln Memorial, where she announced that, really kind of coming out into the public, saying this is who she is, this is her real name, her background, and that she's assembling a team of folks to join her, going back into the Mojave and to this tunnel that leads to this base to create and present and obtain the proof that everyone is clamoring for. And this, this issue is interesting because it's dividing a lot of folks in the community. Some are very vocal about calling out her story and saying, there's nothing to this. This is not, it's not real. We shouldn't even be giving this person airtime. And there are others that are, hey, let's let her have her space. Like, let's not come out too hard against her, and let's wait and see kind of how the chips fall. And at that point, then we'll weigh in. And so I myself have not come to any firm conclusions. I'm very much an open-minded kind of person, and I don't feel it's my place to necessarily, come out hard one way or the other. I'm fascinated by the claims, and I think the sort of romantic inside of me really wants these things to be real, like wants this to be exactly as she describes, because I think it's a beautiful message that she has shared. But the skeptical side of me is like, yeah, but we've heard this kind of story before over and over again, and how will this time be any different? So anyway, I've set the table there a little bit with the story. What are your thoughts on that topic?
DJ or me?
Oh, you, yeah.
No, you go. You're our guest.
I listen to him all the time.
So obviously there's a lot of layers. There's a lot to peel back on this. I definitely, my first initial reaction was, I go to read the comments first. As I'm listening to it, I'm like, well, what are people's reactions to this? And this, where this was posted, it was on YouTube. There's a lot of negative comments, disbelief. And I was like, that wasn't my feel on it. And then I kind of investigated her a little bit. I needed to physically see her. I wanted to see how she just even presented and held herself. I wanted to see what her work was, what she'd done with her life. And this is somebody that, on first glance, I don't believe to be a liar or a storyteller. She seems pretty coherent. She seems very intelligent. She seems, she was very thorough in her details and very much like trying to speak as accurately as possible. So, so she wouldn't be, discredited. And if she is making an effort to further investigate and open this up, and this is something that I think, and call me out if I'm wrong on this, but I believe she did say that these beings did want her to meet them. They did want to meet her.
Yes.
And that they do want her to do this. So that's where it becomes kind of almost mythological to me. It's like, well, why her and why in this way? And when they are so powerful and beyond humans, and they are much more intelligent. And I'm curious because I don't know if they're holes in the story so much as I just have questions, and I like to keep an open mind. And I'd like to see what happens. Let's wait and see.
Well, let's talk about her background really quickly. And I just jotted down a little because if there's a little bit of alphabet soup associated with her bio on LinkedIn that a lot of people don't understand. So IO, you'll see IOIW. So that means information operations, information warfare, that she was involved in from the intel side of the house, intelligence expert. Then it says OSINT, which is online, basically like social media intelligence, and OSINT is like open source intelligence. So she would be the kind of person who would be able to look at open sources and analyze those and use that information. So you have other people using different classified methods. They're looking at data that they got from a drone or data they got from human, like a CIA agent that's on the ground that provides intelligence. She's basically using open source, what you can surf on the net, and social media stuff that people are posting. And she's analyzing that and obviously did it at a very high level. So that's her background. And Mr. Larkin, I believe his name is Nick Larkin, Gregory Nicholas Larkin. He's the one who verified her identity and her security clearance that she's legit. So that's what lends a measure of credibility, where if I said to you that she had a healing center in Laguna Beach, you'd probably be less likely to believe her anything that she says about this topic.
Yeah.
Sure.
So at least her credentials, she's extremely credible. I'm very intrigued. I'm sure a measure of that is because I want to believe that,
Right.
I want to believe that they're contacting somebody because so many people are talking about beings that look very much like what she says.
Mhm.
So I would be intrigued enough that if I were invited and I thought I wasn't going to lose my job, I would go and accompany her come what may.
Right.
Well, I was curious about that. Is anything going to stop her? Any government group or entity going to stop her?
She says no, because they don't even know. They don't know where it is, and unless they're going to like tail her, which they probably are,
Right.
if they believe that she's credible, I don't think they're going to stop her. She just doesn't want military there. But let's go over the parts of her story that you find believable and not believable, or what. Take us through from if there's anything about, first of all, let's just start chronologically. Is there anything about the coffee shop that you find interesting, Karlene, and then we'll go to Nathan?
I didn't think so. I guess it could sound a little far-fetched to some people that she just happened to meet these people, and they happened to be like, hey, let's talk about aliens. Hey, we happen to have some aliens. If you want to we'll come show you some aliens right now. And she was like, yeah, I'll go with you. But she talks about how she did take precautions. She got their information and shared it with I think her immediate family, and was like, listen, I'm going into the desert. If I don't come back tomorrow, I'm with these people. And this is what happened. And then I think down the road, if I can skip ahead, she does mention that one of those beings said that they had coordinated that those people would reach out to her and find her.
There's no doubt, because she said she already saw that lavender being in her house or something. Nathan, coffee shop.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great setup, right? You can look at that and go, oh, this is kind of odd and a strange sort of set of circumstances, but that's how life is, right? It's sort of a series of strange things that happen to us, and we kind of fall into certain experiences, and we attribute those experiences to kind of happenstance. Like we don't necessarily plan to do a certain thing or plan to meet a certain person, but one day you'll meet a person and that person will change your life. So there's a degree of credibility to this to the randomness of this encounter that I think makes the story very compelling. I mean, when I hear her talk, and I've watched a couple of the interviews, and I do follow her on Twitter, and I follow her on Reddit. I think it's hard to say that she's not genuine. She seems to be a very genuine person. And she speaks very well, and I think is a very compassionate person, and is very polite, and treats people with dignity, which is something that I resonate with. To me, how you treat a person is more important than what you know. And so, just seeing how she treats people and the things that she is trying to do by adding kind of transparency and responding to her critics with, I think, a pretty kind of kind hand, rather than, like a returned slap or whatever. All those things are good signs for me that at least if this is a real thing, this is the kind of person I would want to give this a go, and reveal this greater truth to the world. But at the same time, I'm fully cognizant of the fact that there's so much wrapped up in this topic, right? There's so much of our human sort of hopes and fears and anxieties and everything wrapped up in ufology, and that's why a lot of people, we had a whole show on this, or DJ with Exo Academian recently, and how
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, great guy.
Exo Academian, you got to hear that one, girlfriend.
It was a great show, but talking about religion and the components and aspects of religion and religious experience that bleed over into ufology and sort of the various circles of ufology and the phenomena. Like it's a human thing. If we could reduce this down to something simple, it's human to believe in fantastical things. Like the power of our imagination is what has created our entire society. It's like a superpower that we possess, and we can go into that more deeply later if we need to. But all that being said, when people read this story from Anjali, they're laying onto that story all of their personal hopes, dreams, desires, wishes, etc. And that's super duper powerful. Like the power of that motivation is so compelling that it can blind people and has blinded people through history to frauds and grifters and people that take advantage of others and abuse people and all that kind of thing.
Nathan, can I jump in here?
Sure.
I'm still back at caramel macchiato. And you already you already skipped past seeing the beings to the analysis of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm at caramel macchiato. So and by the way, do you take caramel or any of those syrups in your coffee, Carlene? I don't
No, I actually switched over to like mushroom coffee.
Oh, nice.
Get that reishi coffee, man.
Yeah.
But anyway, it wasn't serendipitous that these people showed up in her estimation because of the fact that she had seen this very same being. I don't remember. She said it was at her home where it appeared to her as this tall lavender being, or if it was at the hospital. I can't remember. I know the thing she had at the hospital was the woman next door to her that had passed, and then her soul had meandered into the room. I don't know if you've heard that one, but that's the other podcast I sent you, Carlene. The one with
that one does not sound familiar.
So. Yeah, Roderick. When you listen to the first Roderick Martin, you'll hear but anyway, so it wasn't serendipity. It was, she believes it was planned based on the fact that she had already seen that being, and that being has communicated with her after the fact about the people that they do want and don't want to come out there with her. So I'm sure that probably there's a significant percentage of this is that like, just to let you guys know where I'm coming from. When I heard this, I had to like contact Nathan, right? And what I say, Nathan, what's this about?
Yeah. Tell me about this story.
Yeah. Like I had no idea. I wasn't tracking it. I thought it was just another person that supposedly had an experience. And some of them I find very credible, like Travis Walton, and some of them are probably less credible. But so I didn't even investigate it. And as soon as I started to listen to her and read her background and read the fact that Nick has verified her credentials, that her clearance, that it's legitimate, it's not just a fake LinkedIn account, etc., then I started to become intrigued. And so there is probably a high percentage of me that just wants to believe this. But I would actually go there and check it out if I thought I could, again, that I wouldn't get fired.
What's the timeline of her getting down there and revealing this?
By the end of the year, December 31st.
Pretty soon.
Okay.
I would just suspect sooner because it's going to get cold in the desert, as time goes on.
Bring it on.
Yeah, right. I mean, sure, I prefer the cold, but I guess, Karlene, one thought I want to get from you on this topic is, I'm sure through your hypnotherapy sessions, you've heard a lot of things, a lot of interesting things. And, tell us a little bit about how you kind of weigh the claims of what your patient is saying versus, what you believe to be true yourself. How do you balance those things, or do you not?
I would say that, oh boy, that's big. So it's a very case by case basis for sure. And like how we kind of analyze this woman for a while, and we're like, does she seem to be credible? Or does she seem to be a storyteller? So sometimes when you're dealing with hypnosis, I mean, you're dealing with psychological, you're dealing with the mind. So sometimes people, and I've done this too, you think you had an experience, or you think that some being is talking to you or through you or controlling you or attached to you. Like, I mean, I'm probably going on a little bit off left field, but these are things people do get into.
Sure.
And there's a part of me, now I'm not a psychologist, I'm not a therapist, so I'm not here to analyze those pieces for them, right? If you do have some kind of mental, you know, let's say you have a reason to develop an entity inside of you that you are going to decide is going to speak to you, and it's an all-powerful being from another planet, and under hypnosis I will, you know, facilitate communication with that being. There's a discernment you have to come into, and the discernment is, what is this person's, you know, stuff, what is their, you know, kind of history. And I'm not here to analyze people when they're doing a hypnotic session and I'm facilitating, and whether or not we're talking to a Pleiadian or we're talking to the galactic. I've had people like be very adamant, like, well, I'm an Arcturian and I want to have an Arcturian experience. I want to see my Arcturian family. Okay, fine. That's their reality. I'm not going to question their personal reality. So when we're doing a hypnotic session, they will see, you know, maybe a mantis being, like that's happened before, or maybe they're channeling something, or maybe they're seeing a big gray. And I had one time a gray like be yelling at me, and I was just like, okay. and so you have to add some discernment in there of like, are we interacting with something that is intergalactic, interdimensional, or paranormal, or are we interacting with somebody's, the word is, I'm going to use a psychosis, or just their mental state. So you have to be able to discern that. And that's what we're trying to do with this situation too. Is this person a storyteller, or is she legitimate, you know? And I kind of went on a tangent on that on you, Nathan, but I think I answered your question.
No, it was a great answer. And I want to sort of go from there to here. And and here is, does it necessarily even matter? You know, so
thank you. Yeah. Right.
Right. So
does it matter? It's their reality.
It is, right. And we, every day we all wake up and move through the world in a way that fits within the narrative we built around it. You know, so when we're born, we're all here on this show, you know, born in the West and grew up in a Western culture, and you know, we navigate the world through that lens of what is normal, not normal. All those things are dictated to us by the culture that we've sort of find ourselves, and that's not an absolute thing. There's no absolute, you know, normative or non-normative, you know, kind of way to take your tea in the morning. You know, there are things that we have come to believe are acceptable ways to do that and not acceptable ways to do that. And so we all have to live in harmony with our beliefs. You know, if we weren't doing that, we would lose our minds. We'd have psychotic breaks all the time. You know, if we weren't able to kind of move through life and harmonize our experiences so that they don't break our house apart, then we wouldn't be able to function, right? And so I think that a lot of these experiences, whether they're real or not real, as you pointed out, Carlene, I think that's a very gracious way to interact with anyone. It's real to them, and it means something to them. Now, where I do take issue, and before you speak, where I do take issue is if you bring other people into your
That's
world,
the difference. That's the difference.
If you
take advantage of them.
Yeah, this is not somebody who just went to Carlene and said, "Hey, I want to have a hypnosis." This is someone who's saying, "I want to have a national press conference and then lead a team." That's not a personal. It's not personal anymore.
And that's exactly where her detractors are coming at her from. You know, that she shouldn't be doing this because there's so many examples of people taking advantage of others like this in the past.
But wait a minute. She's not taking advantage of anybody.
Well,
we'll go back to that doesn't matter. We'll go back to Tic Tac. You can choose to believe or you can choose not to believe.
Sure.
I'm not here to convince you to believe or not to believe. Do what you want to do.
Right.
She has made it an issue larger than somebody that goes to Carlene and goes, which by the way, if Carlene was local, I would be doing about my own experience because I want to know what I saw.
Right.
But that notwithstanding,
I think what you have, sorry, go ahead.
This, what she's doing, first of all, at this table, I want to take a poll. We're going to do this really quickly. Do you believe that there are other beings, either extraterrestrial or ultra-terrestrial, etc., that have visited here? Yes or no, Karlene?
Yes, of course.
Nathan, do you believe that there are either extraterrestrial and or ultra-terrestrial that have visited here?
I'm gonna go with yes, but a caveat: non-human intelligence. I don't know what that is. but
Okay,
a
whatever.
non-human
Yes, I
intelligence.
don't, whatever we call it, but some sort of being has visited here.
Yep.
Okay, so if we all agree with that, then that right there makes it not that fantastic that she says she saw one
Sure.
or saw a group of them.
But
So it's plausible. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
what's in it for her? That's my question. If
Nothing.
people are so mad at her, or just trying to discredit her before they even let her try to prove this, you got to look at follow the money. What's in it for her?
Right.
By doing this, I mean, she could ruin her reputation, right? She could put
She
herself in
has.
danger. So,
She said, I'm not getting hired again.
right. And I looked at that, and that's what I think you need to look at people's motives. And circling back almost to like what Nathan was asking me about, you know, people discerning people's like intentions and stuff. Like, what's her intention? What's her motive? What's in it for her if she, you know, takes a film crew or whatever down to the Mojave Desert and there's nothing there? She's going to look like a fool, right? So why would you do that to yourself? I don't think this woman is, I think she's too intelligent. I think she's too coherent. I think she knows I think she's aware that what she's doing is a risk and she's being courageous. I want her to be right. I want this story to be true. And if it's not, well, then I guess we move on to the next show, right? You know?
I think she's anything but stupid. And I think she 100% believes this. And if it's not true, she's concocted a narrative that has several different players in it. And I mean, I'll tell you what, somebody's probably already figured out who Wayne and Trisha are. Do you believe somebody's figured out who they are, Nathan?
I mean, I'm sure people are trying. I don't know if they have or not, but I mean, because they could be made up names, but
that's true too.
They are made up names.
You know.
Oh, are they really?
Yeah, those aren't their real names.
Oh yeah, what's up, Karlene the investigator? See Natasha, man. She taught you something. It's back to Natasha, man. All roads lead
back to but intelligence is not a intelligence alone is not a reason to not be just because someone is smart doesn't mean that they can't be prone to insanity. And I'm not saying that she is. I want to make sure that that's clear. I'm not saying that she is. I'm just saying that a lot of famous people who've gone insane in history have been super, super smart people. And they can seem very coherent, but they live in an alternate reality that they have concocted. And so, you know, could that be the case here? Yeah, absolutely. You know, and again, which is why I'm on the fence here. I want to see where this goes.
Did you see her press conference?
I did. And
how did she seem in that? Did she seem crazy or did she seem coherent?
No, I don't think she seemed crazy, but I think our marker for crazy can be a little skewed, you know. So you know, like sometimes we think of crazy as, you know, somebody with, you know, wild hair and they're sort of you know, eating their own feces or something.
Right. But what was your visceral feeling? What was your internal feeling?
Yeah, my internal feeling is that she really believes what she is saying, and that's why this is compelling, because she seems authentic, and that's probably the word I was looking for.
Great yoga word right there.
You know, very authentic. And so, you know, let's see where it goes, right? I'm not out there to kind of say, hey, you know, she shouldn't be doing this or she's taking advantage of people. I don't believe that to be true until I know otherwise. And I don't
she can't take advantage of people.
Well, she's
could. Not capable. How?
I mean, there are lots of ways she could at some point.
I mean, right. Okay, up to now, has she taken advantage of anybody?
No, and that's why I'm saying I'm not coming down on her one way or the other. But she could. She could try to monetize this. She could, you know, there are things that she.
Oh, could do. Okay, that's possible. True, but I'm saying, okay, that's true. Then she could turn into like what Stephen Greer did, whatever. But to this point, she hasn't done that. She's just said, "I saw this. Right. They want to connect with humanity. They're looking to what did she say? They're looking to disclose themselves."
Right.
Okay. So that if that bothers you, if you're at home and you're like some UFO Twitter guy and that makes you angry and you're going to start typing angry messages, you're an idiot. You're a moron.
Yeah.
Well,
And there are
that's
people,
a
and there are people
fear-
who,
choose-
It's a
there are people who
fear-based
are.
reaction.
Yeah.
Yes.
Completely.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just like Tic Tac is definitely made by humans because I'm scared if it's not.
Right.
And that's what a lot of people's
Right.
reaction is.
But
Right.
those who have come out against her I think are doing so from a place of good intent. I don't agree with it, but their intent is they're trying to dissuade people from following someone who they believe is a fraud. So it's
Yep.
coming from a place of good intent. Again, I don't agree with the way they've gone about that.
But you got to
wait a
decide
minute.
for
Hold
yourself.
on. Yes. What you just said. And this is not Jim Jones.
No.
This is not, hey, we're going to Guyana. And
It's
guess
pretty
what?
innocent,
I'm going to
yeah.
be your king.
It's
Right.
pretty
She-
innocent what she's
It
doing.
is. There
Correct.
is nothing. They're not protecting anybody from anything. You can choose to believe or not believe. You don't
I'm-
have to harass her. You're
I'm
a
afraid
you're a
for her
freaking moron
well-being,
if you
though.
do that.
Yeah.
I'm
Again, I
afraid
don't.
for her
Yeah.
well-being.
Yeah, right. And I think that
Yeah.
that's a great point that she's putting herself out there, and there are a lot of people who, if she doesn't deliver, they will feel very let down, and they could wish her harm.
Yeah.
What if I'm let down? What if I went out there and what did I tell you I was going to do, Nathan?
You're gonna try to get on that team, man.
And what did I say I would do if it wasn't true?
I forget.
I said it'd be a nice hike and
Yeah,
come
exactly.
back and go see my yoga friends and my
For sure.
jiu-jitsu friends and have
Yeah,
a
but-
beer and eat at Alibaba's or something. I don't know.
Totally.
It's not that. I mean, if you're investing more in it than that, you're an idiot. You have a problem. Not
Yeah.
Anjali.
No,
I'm
I
not going to be like, oh, she ruined my life.
Right. No, I understand that, but at the same time, what I'm trying to say is that there are those that feel a sense of responsibility to others who maybe they have seen taken advantage of in their own life, and they want to prevent those people from being taken advantage of. And this is their way about going about it. Again, I disagree with the methodology. I don't condone that behavior, but this is the place in which those people are coming from. I don't agree with it, but I understand why they are trying to come out against her, because in their minds they think that she is potentially dangerous to people who might be sucked in.
You know what they say about haters? You know what I mean? It's that they hate that they see something in you they wish they had within themselves. There's absolutely no reason to come out against her. You could just simply say, I don't believe her, and that's it. You don't have to if you harass her, the problem is with you.
Right.
You're not protecting anybody. The
Right.
problem's with you. Who hasn't been who on this panel hasn't been taken advantage of? If you've been taken advantage of, raise your hand. Nathan, I'll just take your word for it.
Raise the marble.
Okay. Everybody's been taken advantage of. Don't make excuses for them for that shit behavior. That is, I'm not going to use a curse word. That's BS. That's BS behavior. You could just say, I don't believe her. I don't put any stock in it, and move on, which is what I would do if I even bought a ticket to California and went there.
Right. And
I'm
I
not going to sit there and go, Angela, it's your fault.
Right.
I've been taken advantage of in my life.
It's taking some autonomy over your own reactions.
Yes.
That's what you.
Yes.
And honestly, that's a global
Agency.
thing that a lot of people need to be doing right now, is taking
Sure.
autonomy over their own anger and their own actions.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
There is no reason and there is no excuse. If you have that in your mind that you're protecting the public by cursing out this woman on Twitter, you're a moron. And don't watch the show anymore.
Well, there's 8 billion humans. Not everyone can be as smart as you, DJ.
It's very
in fact, both people on this panel are smarter than me, but that's beside the point. No, it's the new, Nathan will tell you that I'm very jokey. I'm very, I like to just kind of be fun and just, humorous and so forth. But when the New York will come out of me, like with the Nathan's heard me, we spent like probably an hour and a half the other night talking about the Tic Tac. And when somebody says, oh, the Navy guys don't know what they're doing with flying these airplanes and they made mistakes. When I hear that, the New York comes out of me and I say, you're full of crap. Just like they'll say, oh, I'm attacking Anjali online because I'm protecting the public. I'm going to say, you're full of crap. I'm not going to try to whitewash it and sugarcoat it and be super analytical and make my professors at SNHU proud of me. I'm going to just say, you're full of it. Simple as that.
This is why we're a good team, because we come at this from completely different angles.
Yes, that's why I love Nathan, because he's smarter than me.
I'll get a little astrological here. I'm a Pisces, so I'm very
Me
much
too.
very much a bring some balance to the world kind of person. Yeah, maybe that's why we work together so well. So anyway, I it's a fascinating story, and I think it's something that I very much hope it's true, because I think it'd be super cool. I mean, it's gonna, if we're gonna get some sort of disclosure from beings at all, it's gonna happen in a weird way. I don't think they're gonna do it in a way that everybody thinks, it should happen like this. I mean, I think it's gonna happen in a strange way, and we'll have to deal with the consequences of that. But I guess to kind of conclude the show and get to the end, I mean, I really want to come back to you, Karlene. I want to get a sense from you on, you've gotten to this subject, as you said, like you've kind of been made more aware of the UFO stuff in your journey. Where do you sense it kind of going from here? And also, how do you see or encourage people to kind of open themselves up to this topic, and be willing to discuss it in a way that a lot of people aren't, right? A lot of people aren't willing to talk about these kinds of things in the public. So what do you see there?
Right. Well, there's 8 billion humans, 8 billion different realities happening right now. Okay.
Totally.
Yeah. So I mean, you can't have 100%. You just can't of acceptance or anything like that. But I think that, as they say, the truth is out there, and I think the truth always reveals itself. I highly recommend that people keep questioning reality, keep questioning what you think you know. I think it is interesting the timing of when they did release those videos of unidentified aerial objects last summer during, controversial issues. And I think I have, and another thought I had, and this I had it right before you asked the question, Nathan, was, if she does do this, or if there is disclosure that does happen, because I mean, I do follow some psychics on YouTube every once in a while, and they do talk about disclosure, and they're always talking about disclosure and like, oh, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. Well,
right.
Here's my question. How it happens isn't exactly important, or even when, but more so, how is the world, the species of humans, going to react to it? And are we ready to receive that? Are we at that level where we can receive that? The reaction to the world events in the last 18 months has been what it's been, very fear-based. Humans are still living in a place and operating from a place of fear. A lot of us are. So I worry that's my concern for the futures. I think people need to keep educating themselves, keep questioning things, keep looking for the truth, and stay curious. Ask questions, find stories, look for evidence if you can. But as a whole, as a collective of the species, Homo sapiens on this planet, are we truly ready to handle disclosure? How's that going to go down? And I'm very, it makes me slightly apprehensive, but excited. And so I don't know what your thoughts are. And I wanted to ask that. So I know you asked me a question and I kind of answered it. Now I want to throw this back at you guys. If disclosure did happen, let's just play out this fantasy. And whether it's Anjali or who it isn't, it doesn't, whatever. Let's say it does happen before December 31st. How do you think humanity is going to respond to that, where they are, based on where we are right now?
Well, I'll let Nathan go first.
Okay, Nathan.
I mean, poorly. I think that we've got a ton of hurdles to overcome as a global culture to engage with, if there is in fact a broader kind of galactic community, which I think would be really cool. I mean, I grew up, I was a Star Trek kid, Star Wars, all these kinds of stories that I grew up with as a child, and that's a very exciting and inspiring sort of future to walk into. But I fully recognize that we have a ton of different perspectives and motivations, and behaviors on the earth that would be super challenging to kind of cooperate on as we engage with that broader community. Just take one issue. Like, let's take technology. If they were to present themselves and provide us with access to some degree of advanced technology, well, who gets it? Who gets it on the earth, and how is it used? How is it abused, or how could it be abused? If I were an advanced species and I were about to hand over some amazing tech to humans, I would want to know before I handed that over that they weren't going to blow themselves up with it. And right now, I don't know that I could say that I'd have any confidence that we wouldn't do that. So, while I'd be
children.
excited about it, yeah, exactly. We're very much children here,
We're
and
very
I'm
primitive still.
excited, but very sort of a lot of trepidation about that.
Yeah.
Which is tough, because I really want it to happen. I want that to come forth.
For sure.
What Nathan said.
Yeah.
And back to you,
I
Carlene.
think we all kind of were at a consensus there. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I think we have 3 people on this panel right here that really care about the planet a lot and the environment and so on and so forth. And it's very troubling to see how people disregard it. I'd say would be the best word I could use that would cover the largest group of people.
Yes.
So, but I think there would be problems with a lot of people trying to assimilate that information. My boss and my prior boss, the guy who got me this gig right now, but he's still a colleague at this point, told me, and he's a deeply faithful Catholic, but he also has a scientific mind about him. And he said that, he said, I got news for you, DJ. He said, there are religious people are going to have a problem with this. And then it came out, you remember, Nathan, Lou Elizondo said that people in the Pentagon said, we already know what this phenomenon is. It's demons.
Right.
So, and I mean not to at all to demonize people of faith, because I regard and respect them just like I respect my fellow yogis and other groups. Love everybody. But yeah, it's going to be an issue for some, but that doesn't mean it shouldn't happen. It should happen because it's the truth, and you don't ever get anywhere by trying to ignore the truth, whether it's your own personal truth about yourself that you're trying to hide or not acknowledge, or someone else not acknowledging the truth about you. You can just broaden that out to a greater context. And if there's something out there, we need to know what it is. It's obviously trying to get our attention, according to, the Navy pilot that said we saw him every day for a year. So what does that tell you? Mm-hmm. If he says you have a Navy F-18 fighter pilot on the Princeton, so on the Roosevelt East Coast based carrier group, and he said he saw him every day for a year. What does that tell you? Yeah. It tells you they're not trying to hide that they're here. Yep. So I think there is a certain plausibility about what she says. It sounds extremely fantastic, but I want you guys to tell me what UFO encounter could happen in your life your life today. So it could happen this week, but let's say your life in 2021. I want you to tell me a UFO encounter, in-person encounter, that would not sound something like Anjali. Tell me what that would look like. Go first, please, Carlene.
I don't know if I understood the question.
Okay. If you were to have if an alien were to, let's say you're Karlene Linxweiler, right? Okay. In your life this week, you are going to make in-person physical contact with an alien. I want you to tell me, what would that look like?
What would be concrete evidence to me? Or
no, if it occurred, like, just say, if it occurred, how could you imagine it would occur in your life? Like, you're at the studio, you're alone, honestly, you're rolling up mats. And
no, I feel like I'd have a nighttime visitation.
Nathan.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would have to be reality shattering, right? It would have to be something that would break the routine of your day to day. I don't know.
The point I'm trying to make to you is there's no scenario that you could imagine that would not sound almost exactly like what happened to her. We have no, and this goes back to what Lou Elizondo said. Now I'm going to sound smart, Carlene. This is the part where I sound smart. We have no frame of reference other than being human to imagine something like this. So if it's going to happen and nobody we know has actually seen one in the flesh where they could reach out and touch one. And if that happens, there's no way it doesn't sound just like what happened with Anjali.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be like, I can't believe it was like, I just saw something. Like I just was in a room with this thing.
Right.
There's no way it does it. That's the only way it's going to sound is like, this sounds completely 100% fake television because we only have the movies.
Right.
And
but that's why the story alone isn't good enough,
right.
Because you're going to have some kind of corroborating evidence, multiple witnesses, video, photographic, audio, everything you could possibly get as a collection to corroborate the claim. Because if you don't have any of that stuff, it's just words, and that's all we have right now.
Right. I agree. I'm not saying I'm in 100% agreement with you, but what I'm saying is that it sounds so nuts, right? What she's saying. We walked into the cave and in through the mountain, and it just sounds like Land of the Lost type stuff, right? We're ready for Chaka and the Slee Stacks to come running out. And right now Carlin's going, what the hell's that? But it's on YouTube.
I barely
Land of the
remember
Lost. So, but
I mean, there's a lot of questions for sure. There's a lot of questions, and there's a lot of like you could argue this story, and it's very weak without evidence. And so I say we wait. You gotta wait till she goes out there, and then
we don't have a choice.
Yeah.
I'm gonna wait and see. I'm not gonna call it anymore because predicting would be at this point. You can predict, but let's just see what she's got. She came out. She said she's got evidence. Let's wait for it. Let's see the evidence then.
So I won't ask you how the story ends then, because I think you've just said that you don't want to try to predict what happens.
I find when people predict, they always regret it. So.
Especially in Vegas.
Right. So I find that predictions can be silly. So let's just see. I mean, she came out, she's been vocal, she's getting the word out. Okay, lady, let's see it. Okay. You didn't take a video, you didn't take a picture, but you had your camera on the whole time. Let's see it.
Right.
Last word to Nathan. What do you got, brother? Do you want to make a prediction how the story ends, or I don't want to frame it any further than that.
No, I want to say this, that, be in the present moment. And this is true for, a yoga practice. Yeah. It's true for any relationship. It's true for everything that we do. We're at our best when we're present. And when we try to fast forward into the future or rewind into the past, we aren't present. We are, I think, chasing a fantasy that doesn't exist or doesn't exist anymore. And so in this instance, I think we need to be present to what she's saying, present to one another, be charitable, and be open-minded, and let's see where the journey takes us. And I'm super grateful, Carlene, to have you on this show with us and to chat. It's been such a cool chat, and there's a lot more that I'd love to talk to you about too, which is great. So we can have you on again in the future if you're open to that.
Yeah, that would be super fun. I hope I have another experience between now and then.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Yeah, and we'll and if you don't mind, maybe we'll get that image and we might be able to share it with the audience.
Yeah,
too.
if DJ's got it, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I shared it with Nathan, so he should
for sure.
find it in his email because he's got control of the stream. So I am now out of control. I'm out of control.
That's right.
And if any listeners have ever seen something like that, I want to hear about it.
Please,
Awesome.
yeah, please chime in and let us know about that. You can find actually, yeah, let us dive into that. I actually have a kind of a sad announcement I'm going to make, but before I do that, I want to give Karlene a chance to tell people about where they can find her and her work.
Okay, so it's rootswingshypnosis.com. Rootswingshypnosis.com is the website. You can contact me there. And all my social media links are in the top right-hand corner of every page on that website. So you can go through my Instagram, roots_wings_sage. I am on YouTube. Best if you just hit the YouTube link on my website, because it'll take you to dozens of audio sessions. Thank you. Dozens of audio sessions of clients having regressions, past life, future life, and actually going into and current life stuff, seeing experiences from UFOs, visitations.
And we need you on UFO Twitter. I just want to make that pitch.
I don't have Twitter. I don't want to get on Twitter. I'm scared.
It's UFO Twitter is so much
smart.
So much fun.
Scares me.
So I want to thank Karlene for joining us. You were so much fun. I know you're welcome. I know we'll talk to you again. Nathan, you're amazing. I'm so happy to have you as a co-host, and every time you speak, it's just like I just stop and I just stare at the wall and listen. And you're amazing. So thank you.
One last thing I want to say: if you have me on again, you should probably bring Natasha on too.
We thought about
would be fun.
Yeah, do it. I'm down.
All right, so that we were looking for an avenue to bring in Natasha for an episode. I think we just found one, Nathan.
Yeah, perfect.
We'll talk to her if she's willing to chat about her particular hypnotic sessions. That'd be really cool.
That'd be great, man. Natasha Dominguez, I know you're watching this. Yeah. I assume you tweeted her the link, right? Or you sent her the link?
I haven't, but I will, or you can.
Okay, Natasha, my homegirl. Come on next time with Karlene. Yes. We're going to break it down. Right now, I have a little bit of a somber note. Nathan's helped us out for me. I found out tonight, post teaching yoga, I was checking in with, ironically, checking in with my college teammates from Dean football, 1985-86 football team. And we're having a reunion this month. So I was like, hey, guys, what's going on? And I was checking in with one guy. And then when I finished yoga class and I looked at my phone, there was a message that one of them died today. Mm-hmm. So, and he was part of our 10-person chat that's going to reunite on the 24th. So please, RIP, Dean football's number 9, the All-American from 1986, Mark Hansen. Love you, brother, and you won't be forgotten. You're an inspiration to a scrub like me. So thank you very much. And for Karlene, Nathan, this is DJ for Calling All Beings, saying peace out, one love, and we'll see you down the road.
Peace.